Hey, mathematicians. This lesson today is all about adding fractions with unlike denominators. So I am going to finish my title. Unlike whoops. Sometimes I get a little mixed up when I write that. Denominators. So with this lesson, I want you to write down the notes that I am writing down. This is going to go along with page 40 in our student book. So I'm going to write down page 40 in our student book. So after we do these notes, you're going to take these notes, and then after this, I'm going to write these down in your math notebook with today's date, which is November 12th, 2020. The title of this page is Adding Fractions with Unlike Denominators, and we are going to use practice page 40 after our notes, okay? So when we're adding with unlike denominators, that means different denominators, different numbers that are on the bottom of our fraction, okay? So last week when we worked with or not last week, but the beginning of this week, we had our strips, our number strips, and our clock models, right, in our books. And if you remember, on Tuesday, we did page 38, and we did page 39, which was our clock models with different fractions. And then we also did it here where we're practicing using different numbers at the bottom, 2 and 6, so 1/2 and 1/6. We use the clock model, 5/8 and 3/4. So remember that. We use the pictures to help us guide us. For this time, we are going to use some algorithms. So I'm going to show you the ways that I would like you to practice using when we add and subtract fractions with different denominators. Today we're just adding. So first we have to remember our common multiples. So a common multiple is the number when we have two numbers. So let's do an example here. I'm going to use, let's do 3 and 4. So I want everybody to write 3 and 4 down. And common multiple is when we start talking about the multiples of each number, so we start counting up by that number, when we get to the same number, excuse me, when we get to the same number, on 3 and 4, when we get to the same number as we're counting up, we stop. And that's our lowest common multiple, or LCM. Let's write that somewhere. I'm going to write it right above. Some people say the lowest common multiple. That's when we go up. And then we also say lowest common factor, LCF, when we're simplifying. Right now we're going up. So if my denominator is a 3 and my other denominator is a 4, I have to find a common factor or a common multiple between the two so I can start adding the fractions. Okay? So 3 and 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start counting up by threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 16, 20. Mr. McIntosh, I started counting by 4s on accident. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. There we go. Where is my mind? Okay, I'm going to stop there because I think we might have a common multiple with the 4. We don't have to keep going with our 3s. Let's see. Let's count up by 4s now. And if you see a multiple, stop and we'll circle it if we see a common multiple. So we have 4, 4, 8, 12, 6. Oh, did you see that? Look what we have here. We have the same number now for the 3 and the 4. So I'm going to go ahead and circle the 12. There's our lowest common multiple. A lot of you may have noticed for this particular lowest common multiple, we could have multiplied 3 times 4, right? For 3 and 4, when we multiply 3 times 4, the answer is 12. That happens to be our lowest common multiple. That won't always happen for the lowest common multiple, but you can always find a common denominator by multiplying the two denominators together. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's do another common multiple. Let's do, how about 3 and 6? So we're going to write the numbers 3 and 6 down. And let's start counting up. Let's do our multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9. Oh my gosh, I think I can stop here. Why? Well, let's go 15, 18. Now let's find our multiples of 6. 6, 9. What is it? 18. No, Mr. Mac. My goodness, I am. What is wrong with my multiples today? I'm usually pretty good. I don't know what it is. Okay, let me keep going. 6, 12, 18. Okay, I'm going to stop there because what do I see? I actually see two multiples that are the same, that are common. So I have 6. What else do you see? Do you see another one? I do too. 18. But we're looking for the lowest common multiple, right? So the smallest number would be 6. So the lowest common multiples of 3 and 6 are 6. We could also say 18 if we're just trying to find any multiple, right? Yeah, 6, because 6 times 3 is 18. I'm going to write 12 up here too. So lowest common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. Lowest common multiple of 3 and 6 is 6. Let's try one more. Let's do 12 and 4. So I'm going to start with a big number this time. Ooh, here we go. 12, 24, 36, 48. All right, I'm going to stop there. Let's count our multiples of 4 now. 4, 8, 12. Oh, there we go. I already see it. I could keep going. We could find another one, I'm sure. We could keep going. 6, 20, 24. All right, but lowest common multiple, look what I already see. I see a 12 here, and I see a 12 there. So the lowest common multiple of 12 and 4 is 12. You also notice there's a 24 and a 24. And when I multiply 4 times 12, I actually get 48. So that's also a multiple. Whenever you multiply the two numbers together, 12 times 4, 12 times 4, 3 times 6, and 3 times 4, the product of those will always be a common multiple. It might not necessarily be the smallest or lowest common multiple, but you'll always find a common multiple with that. Okay? So now let's transition this to what it looks like with a fraction. Okay? So we have our common multiples up top. So let's use 3 and 4 first. So let's write 2/3 plus 3/4. Everybody write that down. Remember, if you need to pause this and while we're going, pause it, please. But I want everybody to write these down in your notebooks. This is our notes for the day. All right, so here's how I want you to rewrite. We're always going to rewrite our fractions when we're adding. This is the way Mr. McIntosh likes to do it, okay? So I'm going to have you do it with me, okay? It seems to work best for fifth graders. So we're going to write 2/3 plus 3/4 going up and down on our page, just like we would in a big addition problem or a big subtraction problem. So what that looks like is we're going to write 2/3 plus 3/4. You see how I put the 3/4 down below and I put my equal sign underneath the problem. Okay, this just gives us more room to work. That's the only reason. So I'm going to rewrite 2/3 plus 3/4 going up and down like this, 2/3 plus 3/4. Okay, so now I'm going to work on trying to find a common denominator. And this is where the common multiple, lowest common multiple up here comes to play. Okay, so we notice the 3 and the 4 are different denominators. We talked about last Monday and Tuesday how we could draw a picture with a clock with this one, thirds, remember, which is cutting the clock into thirds and then cutting the clock into fourths and then adding them all up. Well, this way, we're just finding the lowest common multiple. And we realized up here when we wrote them out that 12 would be our lowest common multiple. So what we're going to do is change the denominators to 12. I already know that they'll both fit into 12. So 4 has to be able to fit into 12 evenly, and 3 has to be able to fit into 12 evenly, okay? So then it's just a matter of changing the numerators. So the denominators are changed, but the numerators, the top numbers, are going to change as well, depending on what we do to the bottom numbers. So what this looks like is I like to do these little rainbows. So I do a little rainbow between the 4 and the 12. And I do a little rainbow between the 3. And sometimes I even put an arrow like that. 3 and my missing number. So we're going to fill these rainbows in with numbers. Okay. So what I have to ask myself is, how did I get from 4 to 12? What do I multiply by 4 to give me to 12? So you remember up here we said 4 times 3 is 12. So I know that 4 times 3 is 12. And here's Mr. Mac's song, Mr. Mac's little saying. Whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. So if I multiply by 3 on the bottom, I have to multiply by 3 on the top. So you're doing it's an equivalent fraction. So we're making 3/4 the same fraction, but we're making it into twelfths, right? So just like we did with our clock model. Whatever we do to the bottom, we got to do to the top. So 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/4 is 9/12. It's the same fraction. It's just now we're putting the pieces into twelfths instead of fourths. And then now we're going to do the same thing for 2/3. Whoop, and whoop. Do my rainbows. Okay. Put an arrow if you want. All right, so how did we get from 3 to 12? What did we multiply 3 by to get to 12? We remember we just multiplied 3 times 4, right? So 3 times 4 is 12. And whatever we do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. So I'm going to multiply. If I multiply the 3 by 4 to get to 12, I got to multiply the 2 by 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/3 changed to 8/12. Why did we do that? To make the denominators the same. And these are all equivalent fractions. They're the same fraction, just with different denominators, right? Different amount of pieces. Now we can add. We can just add. We can add down. Some kids like to rewrite the fraction so they can see it better over to the right. Because a lot of these of my rainbows and our arrows and all this stuff kind of gets in the way a little bit. Some kids they can see 8/12 plus 9/12 and just do it here. I like to rewrite it. Whatever works for you though. So now we can add. Let's put the plus sign here. 8/12 plus 9/12. Okay. So we remember we just add the numerators since the denominators are the same now. We add the 8 plus the 9. 8 plus 9 is 17. My denominator does not change. The pieces do not change. So it's 12ths. 17/12. And what does that look like in a mixed number or simplified form? Well, the way we find that is we say, okay, how many times since the numerator is bigger than the denominator, we can make this into a mixed number. So we ask ourselves, how many times can 12 fit into 17 without going over? Well, it can't be 2 because 2 times 12 is 24. That's too many. So it's just one time. 12 can only fit into 17 once, right? And then we subtract 17 minus 12. So how many are left over? So 12/12. So 17/12 minus 12/12. What's 17 minus 12? 5. 1 5/12. So 2/3 plus 3/4 is 1 5/12. Okay, let's do one more and then we're going to be done. All right, and I'm taking these straight from page 40, by the way. Whoop, whoop. All right, 1/3 plus 5/6. So this was A on page 40, and this is B on page 40. I'm going to do these for our videos today. You can do C on your own. Try to. 1/3 plus 5/6. So we're going to write out 1/3 plus 5/6 equals. Remember, now we're going to write it up and down. 1/3 plus 5/6. You see how much room I'm giving myself between the two numbers here? Just because my rainbows take up a lot of space. So I want to give myself some room here. Okay, that's better. All right, so I'm going to put my equal sign underneath. Remember, pause as you need to. All right, so 1/3 plus 5/6. My denominators are different. I need to find a common multiple. So let's go back up. Let me go back up to the top. Here's my 3 and 6. So remember, I used these are my denominators, thirds and sixths. When I went through my common multiples, I notice that the lowest common multiple is 6. You could also use 18. You could say 6 times 3 and do a denominator of 18. That's fine. You just have to go back and simplify it later. But whatever, that works too. But let's use 6 because we're looking for our lowest common multiple. So I'm going to come back down here. And I'm going to go ahead, since I already found it, I'm going to write sixths down. Here, I'll write our multiples over here just so I can prove. So here's my common multiple here. All right, so now we're going to do our rainbows. We found our denominators. Now we just have to find our numerators, okay? Whoops. Sometimes I like to write my rainbows the whole way. All right, so how do we get from 6 to 6? What do we multiply by? Whoop, 1. 6 times 1. So whatever we do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. If you think that's embarrassing for me doing it in the video, wait till we get back to the classroom. Then it's on. All right, so 6 times 1 is 6, so we have to multiply the same thing at the numerator. 5 times 1 is 5. So really, 5/6, it stays the same because our denominator was, our common multiple was already 6. So 5/6 just stays. That's nice. But this one might change. How do we get from 3 to 6? We multiply by, good, 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. 1 times 2. So remember, same number, 2 and 2. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. Now I can add because I have my denominators are the same. Remember, Mr. Mac likes to rewrite them over here. All right, now it's 2/6 plus 5/6. So the 6 stays the same. And then I just add my numerators, 2 plus 5. And that's 7. 7/6. If I want to simplify that, how many times can 6 go into 7? Just one time. What's my leftover? What's 7 minus 6? 1. My denominator stays the same. So 7/6 is the same as 1 and 1/6. Okay, so this is from page 40. Our examples here. And this is A and B on page 40. Oh, on number 2. This is 2A and B. So this is 2A and 2B. To be or not to be? That is the question. So that is from 2A and 2B. And then you can draw just like we've done before. You can do the same thing over here, but write your equations over here for 2A and 2B, which is what we did here. And then number 1 is each bar below, can't even see that, Mr. Mac. Each bar below is divided into 12 equal pieces. Show each fraction on the fraction bar. So you're going to split them into the amount on the denominator. So if this is thirds, they showed you here, thirds, you're going to split it into 1, 2, 3, 4. Every fourth, you're going to split this into, and then shade in how many thirds are, the numerator is how many you're going to shade in. So we're going to shade in 1, 2, okay, 2/3. Fourths, you're going to split this into fourths. So the easiest way to do that is to split it in half. So you go over 6, split in half, and then you split the half in half. Now you have 4 equal parts. And you're just going to shade in 1, 1/4, okay? All right, so I want you to do the rest of number 1. So do 1, C, D, and E. And then we did A and B together. I want you to try C out on your own. And then I want you to take notes on our page here and write all of this down today for me. I'm going to take a picture of this, and I'll put this in our Schoology as well. I don't know if that's what you need, but please go ahead and pause it where you need to. Hopefully that helps. We're going to be practicing a lot more with fractions, but I wanted to do one more day of this, so that's why we're doing it today. All right, long video.